One thing that you should consider, so I know that Portugal, I think, uses a lot of Microsoft software. Actually, most of the world uses a lot of Microsoft software, or software from SAP or other proprietary software vendors. One very good reason to use open source, even if you are still committed to some other vendor, is this reason, that most IT projects fail. This isn't because you are failures. This is just because it's the nature of the beast. That's how things work. This is why open source is important. So open source makes software purchases less risky. And the bigger the project, the more likely it is to fail. So if you consider that you spend zero euros on the software, and you buy on subscription, so that if after 1 year you decide, I'm canceling the project, maybe it has nothing to do with the software, just priorities change, or we discover that this software, even though we were able to try it before we ever purchased a support contract, we were able to try it, but ultimately it doesn't work out for us. At the end of the year you terminate. And because the cost of subscription is so much lower for Alfresco or for Sugar CRM or Compere or whatever the open source technology is, the cost of failure is much, much lower. So even if everything doesn't go as planned, it's a subscription. So in the proprietary model, the customer takes all of the risk. You say, I need to build a new website. And so Vignette or some other vendor tells you, okay, and they show you all these flashy demos and you think it's beautiful, that's exactly what I want, but you never actually use the software until you pay for it. And then you pay for it and you say, this software doesn't do what I want, it's hard to implement, it's complex. That's your problem in the proprietary world. In the open source world, you try the software, you use it before you ever pay anybody anything, and maybe you never pay anybody. So less risky. So Gartner asked, what does this mean for proprietary software vendors? And what they found was interesting, that the trend seems to be, the blue line is for next budget year, and this was 2008. So the light blue line, the top line, the grayish line, was existing and then what was planned. And you see more companies were planning to do more custom internal development and open source development, and were planning to buy less proprietary software. And what this means, especially I think for any country, but particularly anywhere outside the United States, this means more of your IT dollars go to Portugal, not to Microsoft in Washington, United States, or really not even necessarily to Alfresco in the UK. We're based in England. More of your IT dollars stay right here in Portugal, and you can fund the skills internally within your companies, whether you're a system integrator or whether you're a government organization. And that, I think, is good for the Portuguese economy. Well, the response to this decreasing interest in buying proprietary software is that the proprietary software vendors have been combining. So Oracle has bought pretty much every company on the planet, and for the few companies that are left, IBM bought one, they bought FileNet. This is particularly worrisome when, so we used to have books, and then we had Microsoft Office and email, and with increased regulation, you have Facebook and Twitter and all these new content creation technologies, all of which need to be managed in some way. And there's this increasing amount of content with very few vendors that you can work with. And that means that the vendors have an increasing amount of control over your content. So if you're a government organization, it's the citizens of Portugal who should own their data. It's not Microsoft or Oracle or SAP or Alfresco that should own your data. And yet whenever you store it in SharePoint or FileNet or any of these proprietary repositories, those companies essentially own your data. It's not standards-based. You don't have access to the source code. When you give it to when you put it in the proprietary repository, that company owns your data, and it's expensive to get it out. Alfresco is open source, open standards, open everything, and I'm going to talk on that briefly. So when Alfresco was started in 2005, late 2004, John Newton, who had started Documentum back in 1991, so John Newton, Alfresco is responsible both for the old bad world of software and also for the new good world of software, since our founder, or co-founder, really started the document management industry back in 1991. But when he started Alfresco, he decided he wanted to do it differently. So he wanted to do all of the power of a Documentum content management system, but with lower cost, dramatically lower cost, easier to use, providing more choice. Basically, he wanted to make it as easy to get your content out of Alfresco as it is to put it in. So we started Alfresco, and the idea was 100% open source, 100% open standards, which put the burden on Alfresco of providing service to customers. And if we don't, then you terminate your subscription and you leave Alfresco, and it's bad for Alfresco, it's good for you. So the idea was to have much easier to use with far better performance. And on average, we're about 5 to 10 times better performance than a Documentum, FileNet, or our proprietary competition, and roughly 1/10 the cost. So when we've had instances at New York Police Department and other customers where we are literally 1/10 the cost, and we try, because we're really creative, we try to figure out ways that we could charge more money, but we just can't, because it's just cheaper. We don't charge per user licenses, we only charge per CPU, which Bill will talk about. So we've taken this team that created from Documentum and Interwoven and FileNet and some of the leaders in the content management world, and we've developed what we consider a highly superior content management platform and content management system, and we give it away under an open source license, which has given us real success so far. We've had the software downloaded almost 2 million times. We have 100,000 active community members in the Alfresco community, 50,000 live Alfresco deployments, and over 1,000 customers. And we've been growing really well. Despite the fact that we give our software away, we've had 100 to 300% growth every year since the company was founded. And each quarter we grow about roughly 25% year over year. And again, this is despite the fact that the software is freely available. Anybody can download it and use it for free and never pay Alfresco anything.